What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Jason, the 76ers have won 6 games in a row, have the 5th best record in the league, and Joel Embiid is having one of the best seasons in NBA history. Why don't you take Philly more seriously as a championship contender? Okay, first of all, I want to be clear. I think Boston and Denver are the 2 best teams in the league. I think both of them have good chances to win the title. After that, from 3, Milwaukee, all the way to Golden State or whatever, as the 11th or 12th, whatever you want to call in that list, they all have a very small chance of winning the title, in my opinion. Like, what have you seen from Milwaukee that makes you think they can beat Boston this year? Really? In the big picture, right? Like, there's a clear gap there. So even though it's 3 Milwaukee and 2 Boston, that doesn't mean they're right next to each other in terms of their capability of winning a championship. Boston is significantly more well-equipped in a lot of the phases of the game to win the title. We are now splitting hairs between smaller chances. From there, it's about sorting through regular season noise, right? It's just something that I've talked to you guys about on this show. If you want to have a show where people are way more invested in regular season results, those shows are out there. That's just not the way that I kind of see the NBA championship landscape. For starters, this Philly regular season has some major caveats. Philly's opponents have won just 47.8% of their games. They've played the second easiest schedule in the NBA so far this season. That plays a big role in their record. As a matter of fact, just 9 of Philly's 29 wins this year have been against teams that are over 500. The Los Angeles Lakers have won 11 such games. So, there hasn't exactly been this overwhelming evidence in this Philly regular season that they are a dominant team. They're a really good team that has played a really weak schedule, and so they look like one of those unbelievable regular season dominant teams, right? Secondly, Joel Embiid, as the best player on a playoff team, has been super underwhelming to this point in his career. That's not a hot take. Yes, there have been injuries. Yes, shots haven't fallen. But the reality is his playoff impact has gone down a level in his career compared to the regular season. Regardless of circumstance, that's what's happened. Time and time again. That's reality, right? 3, Tyrese Maxey is your best perimeter player. And he's a very good young guard. Player I'm super excited about in the long run. But last year, in a secondary role off of James Harden, his true shooting percentage plummeted by 6% compared to the regular season. Why? Because the playoffs are more physical. It's more difficult to knock down those long distance jump shots. The two-way imposition and the physicality wears you down and makes offense harder. This is not a Tyrese Maxey thing. This is a consistent thing we see. So you combine that with his youth, right? Again, he struggled transitioning from the regular season to the postseason last year as a second option on the perimeter. Now he's the number 1 option. Now he's getting the other team's best perimeter defender in every single lineup. So it's just a little bit more of a long shot. These kinds of things take growing pains. Look at the guys he'll be competing against to get out of the Eastern Conference. He'll be going against Damian Lillard. He'll be going against Drew Holiday and Derek White. Even Terry Rozier has played in a Game 7 of an Eastern Conference Finals against LeBron James. Even he has been in wars that are different than the wars that Tyrese Maxey has faced. So, there is no singular thing I can point to with Philly, anywhere on that roster, where I go, oh, I've seen that work in the playoffs before. There's hypotheticals. The one point of optimism for Philly is maybe Embiid just figures it out and kills everybody, right? But for the record, I actually do think that will eventually happen. I believe Joel Embiid is going to break through in the postseason eventually. But in this singular season, I think there are better bets. When I look at Denver, I can literally look at I know Jokic and Murray is impossible to guard. Even Bam and Jimmy couldn't do it. Okay. They have a 5-man group that makes perfect sense that they're going to start and close the majority of games with. Okay, that makes sense. I know their late game execution works in the postseason. Okay, I know Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Aaron Gordon can guard the opposing best players and do a really good job. That's just a way, way safer bet than those question marks I talked about with Philly. Boston, they have the most talented roster in the league, and even with Tatum's limitations, he's clearly been a better playoff player than Joel Embiid to this point. So I have a more talented team and a guy in Jason Tatum who's been a better playoff player than Joel Embiid. That's pretty significant when I'm weighing title chances between Boston and Philly. Milwaukee, Giannis is a much better playoff player than Joel Embiid, and I trust Dame more as a playoff initiator than I trust Tyrese Maxey. That's pretty clear cut, guys. Number 4, the Clippers. They have their question marks, but I know Kawhi works in the playoffs, and this is the best talented roster that I've seen around Kawhi in a playoff run. That to me is a safer bet. The Los Angeles Lakers, Anthony Davis has proven himself to be a better playoff player than Joel Embiid. That's just a fact. And I know LeBron James is going to find a way to be impactful on that stage if he's healthy. Specifically, I've seen LeBron James and Anthony Davis win a lot of playoff series, make 2 conference finals, and hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy. I know that works. Even after that is where you start to see why I have Philly above. It's like, okay, Minnesota, you're betting on a 22-year-old in Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns to out-execute experienced superstars in a slow-down playoff game series. Yeah, that to me is a big question mark. The Thunder, they're young and small. That's like a death sentence in the NBA postseason. The Heat, no matter how good Jimmy and Bam are, they always end up outgunned from a talent perspective when they get to the later rounds. Honestly, the one team that I have to kind of reevaluate as it pertains to Philly is Phoenix. Phoenix is on my radar as a team that we need to kind of reevaluate. They've played 14 straight games with Bradley Beal in the lineup, and they're 11-3 in that group of games. So and we know Kevin Durant and Devin Booker can score in the postseason. So Phoenix, I need to reevaluate. We're going to do a deep dive on them soon and probably move them significantly higher up on the list. But even with them, it's like they're small. And they're just a worse version of the Clippers and Celtics. So it just feels like an incredible long shot that they would suddenly just rise above the pile and end up hoisting the trophy at the end of the day. But again, the way I do things on this show is I'm looking for playoff, specific trends that I know work in the playoffs. Why do you think I haven't written off the Warriors? I'm like, oh, Steph works in the playoffs. Make a couple of roster tweaks. Draymond gets back in the lineup and fixes the defense. Maybe they get rid of some of the younger players that are kind of disrupting chemistry. Maybe things turn around and it's like, I know Steph works in the playoffs. I know it does. It worked last year as they beat the Kings and it took a struggling Warriors team to a 6th game against the Lakers. It worked when they hoisted the trophy in 2022. It worked the last time everyone was healthy in 2019, right? So I'm always going to look for those trends that I know work in the postseason. When I look at Philly, I see a team with a great record that only has 9 wins against teams that are above 500, with their best player being a historical playoff underachiever and a very young guard who is their primary playoff initiator. That's a lot of question marks. And there is no singular thing you can point to where you're like, that I know works. And so they're a long shot. But again, before Philly fans get upset, everybody's a long shot in my opinion outside of the top 2 teams. I think we're getting a Denver-Boston finals. That's what I think we're getting. But all of these other teams have a long shot. You can see it's like, oh, Milwaukee, what if Dame and Giannis just become completely unguardable and they defend well enough? What if LeBron James and Anthony Davis are healthy, they're re-engaged, they do exactly what they did last year and just bully their way to the conference finals and maybe somehow they upset Denver, right? Like the Clippers, it's like everyone stays healthy. James Harden has his best playoff run as he's getting the 3rd best perimeter defender in every group, and Kawhi Leonard just cyborgs his way to the NBA finals and somehow they beat Boston. Like you can draw a line for these teams, but they're all long shots. And I'm just saying some of these long shots are better long shots than Philly for the reasons that I laid out for you guys.